When you're an artist, you can make whatever you want. A painter can paint a beautiful landscape or splatter paint across the canvas in abstract chaos. Same goes for musicians. They can stick to chords and rhythms and melody, or they can freely splash sonic anomalies into the ether, breaking every rule and convention, even going far beyond the realm of music. No one knew this better than Lou Reed, who released one of the earliest avant noise albums in the 70s with his challenging Metal Machine Music LP in 75. Or as seen here performing with his Metal Machine trio making some beautiful abstract noise in 2009. And Lou Reed, for those who don't know, is one of our great American songwriters. With his band The Velvet Underground in the 60s, he penned timeless songs like Pale Blue Eyes, Sweet Jane, Rock and Roll, and Run, Run, Run. Then even more in his solo career like Walk on the Wild Side, Perfect Day, and Satellite of Love. The list goes on. Yet he also understood this very simple and beautiful key feature of artistry. He wasn't bound to just that. He could make an album of challenging noise, and guess what? His discography otherwise did not disappear. Nothing happened to it at all. All those great songs remained, and they remained great. So this leads me to my next question. Why don't artists do that all the time? Or at least more often. Artists are known for thinking outside the box, yet they often have entire careers where they go without one big outlier of an album like Metal Machine Music. Well, today we're going to look at some artists who did, in various ways, break out of the bounding boxes of themselves and let the flag fly freaky. What did they do? How did they do it? Did they do it well? Find out all this and more. As always, I'll link the videos in the description if you want to hear them in full. Now get your goo-goo goggles and grapple them to your gourd. Let's check out some relatively normal artists who made some weird albums. Let's start in 1983 with a pretty well-known example. Neil Young's heavily electronic and vocodered album Trans. This track Sample and Hold sounds more like it could be early Daft Punk than classic Canadian rock and folk songwriter Neil Young, and 10 years before Daft Punk even formed at that. Now, going back to what I said in the intro to this video, why doesn't everyone make crazy sonic detours? Brings up a good point about art and commerce, which is that many contractually can't. Neil, however, was a big established star and had contracts that gave him complete artistic control. So anyway, one of the most known things about Trans that is cool is Neil had a young son who had cerebral palsy and couldn't speak, and thus veiling the vocals in the vocoder sounds, which is a piece of technology used to make a voice sound like a computer or robot essentially. I need a unit, the sample and hold, but not the lonely one, a new design. Artistically mirrored his experience with his son's own struggle to communicate. And of course, the use of electronic technology itself, drum machines, synths, computers, all of it, show a forward-thinking artist both reacting to and embracing the oncoming information age. You'd think the guy who made Harvest would be a purist, Mr. Analog or whatever, but he was all about the spirit and soul of electronic artistry. The record is outfitted with human musicians too, as well as the synclavier synthetics, but I'm willing to bet a lot of what drew Neil in as an artist is the same autonomy that captivated Frank Zappa when he discovered the synclavier, which was a giant computer finally capable of being programmed to produce synthetic versions of instruments. You finally didn't have to deal with these crazy musicians if you didn't want to. You could translate those sounds directly from your head to a computer who would get them exactly right and never tell you your crazy idea sucked. Anyway, Trans doesn't suck, it rocks. Totally give this one a go.
I'd like to have some Rat, please, and some Motorhead, and some Skid Row, and some Poison, and some Scorpions, and some Metallica.
I got a bad reputation.
You were a teenage sensation.
And I don't know why.
One of my favorite Weird albums is from 1997. When wholesome veteran teen idol of the 1950s singer Pat Boone dropped his album of heavy metal covers in a lounge style called In a Metal Mood, No More Mr. Nice Guy. I mean, Pat was basically a grandpa at this point, and the whole thing was clearly some kind of joke, but for one thing, it's awesome. It's just awesome that he did this. Sadly, there were no real music videos made, total missed opportunity there, which is why we're watching this performance of Alice Cooper's No More Mr. Nice Guy from an Easter Seals donation drive.
No more Mr. Nice Guy. No more Mr. Greedy.
honestly just perfect anyway. But one other cool thing Pat mentions on a Leno appearance is when his band pitched him the idea and he was into it, he got into it. He went into record stores and started scouring the bins for good metal and actually looking for the good songs, finding them and pulling them to perform. The other cool thing about this album's existence goes back to the 1950s teen idol thing, which is you gotta understand, Pat was not, even in his heyday, a wild rock and roller at all. And in fact, his squeaky clean and conservative image was the literal safe alternative to the wild, hip-swaying, unadulterated sex of Elvis Presley, of rock and roll itself. He was the guy your mom wanted you to like. So, In a Metal Mood existing doesn't just exist as a wink. It's waving a white flag. It's saying, oh my god, that was all so off base to be clutching pearls against that stuff. Remember, this came out not far off the heels of Tipper Gore and the PMRC, and I mean, hell, Damien Eccles of the West Memphis 3 had just been sentenced to death in 1994 for essentially wearing black and writing Metallica lyrics in a notebook. So, Pat Boone making this album of fun metal covers and performing on the Easter Seals benefit to old conservative America was legitimately doing work to diffuse the stigma of hard rock and roll and heavy metal. And it rocked. Pat's cover of Crazy Train even became the theme song to the Osbournes reality show. And Pat and Ozzy were neighbors who actually liked each other. Thanks, Pat. Give him hell.
Alice, they're laughing at you. You're looking good. Does this signify the death of heavy metal? No, it's a whole new rebirth.
Okay, I'm running into some semantic trouble here. Weird albums from normal artists. But if we're talking Bjork, Bjork is not a normal artist, right? I mean, Bjork's kind of weird, and all Bjork albums are kind of weird, right? And I mean, that's why we love Bjork. The trouble isn't with the love, it's with the terminology. Well, don't worry, I have the answer, and the answer is this. Bjork is so weird, she can go weird beyond weird in a way that's weird even for Bjork. In fact, if we're talking weird Bjork albums, we could even possibly consider her album of traditionally arranged Icelandic jazz standards called Glinglo from 1990. But the album I'm here to talk about is 2004's Medulla, where she forewent her normal weird electronic production and made an album where the backing music consisted almost entirely of human vocals, or as I kind of came to think of it, mouth sounds. I mean, take a listen to everything going on in this single, Triumph of a Heart. Clearly, you've got the main drums and bass sound provided by Razel, then of the Roots, and Japanese beatboxer Dokaka. But mouth sounds are powering everything. The sibilant hi-hat sound, the atmospheric harmony, the wiggling sounds normally of oscillating synths. If you didn't get the heads up that this was all just mouths and tongues and lips flapping and smacking, you'd very likely just assume this was any other Björk electronic beat. But Medulla as a whole does feel very different. It came on the heels of an insane 4-album run. Debut, Post, Homogenic, and Vespertine, all very strong electronic pop albums with their own unique vibes and fingerprints. And the music of Medulla veers for the first time off into a truly more avant-garde that those albums only hinted at by comparison. It was a bold move, but it was also a baller move, and it marked the end of that original era. Though Björk came back with the electronics in full force on her brilliant 6th album Volta in 2006, she has since always held more firmly to an offbeat avant aesthetic that I feel first came fully into focus with the majestically weird Medulla. It's awesome.
There's no more waiting, holding out for love.
This next one is another pretty well-known one, but we gotta touch on it, which is when in 1999, top-selling country superstar Garth Brooks dropped this album called Garth Brooks in the Life of Chris Gaines, where he performed as his rock alter ego Chris Gaines. And everyone was palpably confused. We all scratched our heads and let him do his thing, and then it kind of went by. It brings to mind a saying I'm fond of, which is, it came, it sucked, it went. A fair amount of YouTubers have covered this, so you can go watch some videos for a deeper dive. But while we're here, for me, in truth, I don't really think the album sucked. It had this hit here, Lost in You, which Childish Gambino has even covered. And it's good production-wise, and there's interesting moments. It even went double platinum because it's Garth. But if there's anything I want to say about it here, it's that it was a huge missed opportunity. Because I remember the hype train rolling out that this was coming. Garth Brooks doing this rock album with a rock persona, and my mind started to imagine it. And what my mind imagined was cool. The guy in the promo images looked dark and possibly tortured. The word rock was used. It was the end of the 90s. To hear a big country star, I don't know, maybe attempt grunge, or at the very least, fuzzy alternative rock like Better Than Ezra or something. It was intriguing. I was ready for it. And then we got this.
Played every field, I suppose, but there's something about you when you're around, baby. I have found I get lost in a wonderful day.
It's basically light R&B. It does not match the signaling at all. Pat Boone was rocking harder. And Garth didn't write any of these songs. Why make up some fake persona as a great songwriter if you're not going to write the record yourself? That's, I think, the great failure. I want to redo. Give this man a Jag stang and a big muff and make him write us the fuzz rock record we deserve. I bet it would actually be awesome. To me, the Chris Gaines record signifies a major what could have been. This was even planned as the soundtrack to a film starring this character, but thankfully, or not, it never was.
I've played every field, I suppose.
Here we have a weird album I can appreciate on a few levels. In 2015, Miley Cyrus released an album called Miley Cyrus and Her Dead Petz, which followed her 2013 album Bangers. And Bangers was really the first album that pivoted Miley away from Hannah Montana and fully into her autonomous adult artist self. Bangers had Wrecking Ball and We Can't Stop, and she ditched Disney fully for MTV and Rolling Stone. Then she follows it up with this album of eccentric music made pretty much entirely with a recently befriended Wayne Coyne and his band of alternative weirdos, the Flaming Lips. And it had like no pop hits or big hooks or anything. It was released for free, and it was released outside of her big label RCA just by herself. It's like an album, but it's also kind of understood that it's not an album entry in her canon pop artist career. It's referred to often as a project. It's almost an exercise. This single, Do It, is kind of the mission statement sonically, lyrically, and visually. Miley DGAF. And it's something I think should happen way more often. Basically, between or around the albums where artists have both barrels pointed and focused solidly at the bullseyes and brass rings, which take an enormous amount of focus and craft and detail and consideration, they should make albums like this. Throw some paint at the wall, limit editing, go with feeling, indulge, play around, have fun, sing about silly and ridiculous stuff, or sing words that make no sense at all. Serve no one. Flush the system. That Miley did this at the height of a new era of fame is commendable. Along with Wayne Coyne in the band, she also had longtime Lips producer Dave Fridman pretty heavily on board. And Fridman is who also took the electropop anthems of MGMT and produced them to legendary status. Songs like Kids and Time to Pretend. So this crew would have been perfectly capable of making some amazing pop record, but I'm thrilled with the fact that they didn't. They made a wild experimental psychedelic hallucination and served it up hot and weird. Even if you're not into the regular Miley thing, I'd say give the Dead Petz a listen. This next one wasn't even on my radar until recently, and I gotta tell you, we may once again be in some semantic distress here, because the music on this 2009 solo album Scream by beloved rock singer Chris Cornell of the legendary grunge god Soundgarden and the highly regarded supergroup Audioslave, is not weird musically at all. But what's weird is that beloved rock singer Chris Cornell of the legendary grunge god Soundgarden and the highly regarded supergroup Audioslave made a pop record with Timbaland beats. Like, for real, how did I not know of this? Did you know about this? This single, Part of Me, is as fine an example as any. I mean, the beat's pretty standard operation. Cool to hear some guitars worked in. And Chris is using his soulful range to lay a sassy hook down in this style. And looks cool in the club, right? Well, I guess this album is pretty universally not liked, but I kind of feel like it was one great song away from having its place in history. And Chris Cornell is a great songwriter, and Timbaland has produced many a great songs beat. But the problem is there's not the one great song, and I think it's largely due to the collaboration style, which is to say, it feels like Timbaland made a bunch of beats. The beats were given to Chris Cornell, and then Chris Cornell wrote songs to these beats. But that doesn't allow for much back and forth, and that doesn't allow for starting from scratch as a songwriter. And so it becomes this experiment which may or may not yield, and in this case just did not yield anything truly fruitful. In a world where time and money were boundless, and Chris and Timbaland could have both walked into a studio empty-handed each day and slowly crafted something from the ground up piece by piece, I kind of feel like the thing could have happened. That magic song could have found its way, maybe even a handful. But as it stands, we got this weird little curio in the catalog of one of my favorite rock singers of all time, and I'm not really mad at all.
Of the voices that gather up the magnets set before me.
And now I figured we would end where we began, with Lou Reed. But hey, he's here for an entirely different reason this time. He's not making noise at all. He's leaving all that up to Metallica. He's just talking. That's like the opposite of noise. This is another record everyone loves to hate. After Metallica offended everyone with their abrasive album Saint Anger in 2003, which I made another video about, they got their act together and hired producer Rick Rubin to make the album Death Magnetic in 2008, which was more or less a return to form and amalgamated classic Metallica through a modern lens, and really to me began their legacy band mode, serving up albums that more or less give the people what they want and stay within the lanes of reliable headbanging gods of rock and metal, Metallica. But right after the promise to behave that was Death Magnetic, they made everyone tear their hair out and scream once again by dropping this album of spoken word vocals with Lou Reed called Lulu in 2011. The video for this single, The View, was also directed by art house heavyweight Darren Aronofsky. Bunch of cool people coming together to make something everyone found decidedly off-putting, and I love it.
Worship! Worship! Pain and evil have their place sitting here beside me. I offer them to you as servants of the gold that you must give.
The lyrics all come from a play project Lou was working on, based on the works of German playwright Frank Wedekind. And the music for Lulu was performed live with all 5 guys in the studio just throwing it down. It's a challenging album that demands your attention, and you're better left to let the imagery of the lyrics guide your visions, rather than throw up your horns and just bang your head. But I say, why not just do it all and get the peak experience? If anyone ever tries to tell you this is one of the worst albums ever, look them in the eye and say, what a strange way to announce to the world you fly such a normie flag. And that's it. These are the weird albums I wanted to talk about. But I know there's more, and I want to hear about them. Shout them out in the comments. What are your favorite weird departures of great sonic divergence that we should all know and celebrate? Come one, come all. Gather round, ye children, come. Let's get weird and stay there. Because in the wise words of the inimitable Hunter S. Thompson, when the going gets weird, the weird turn pro.